Hi, I'm Glenn Simpson, and I've collected comics for over 40 years. And normally, I'm showing off my collection one box at a time. But I thought I'd spice things up a little bit today, and we're going to talk about some things that I want to rant about a little bit. We're going to add a little spice to the mix here on Glenn Simpson's comics. So, hang on to your hat. We'll be right back. Okay, so I just want to talk about a few things that come up. I spend a lot of time talking on Reddit to people about comics and things, and thought it would be fun to just take a minute to talk about a few of the things that have come up lately that we've talked about, and that way you can comment on it and let me know what you think, that sort of thing. So the first thing I want to talk about is what I would call durable protagonists. So occasionally we get a question about somebody saying, for example, Batman must have superhuman powers because he got shot twice and he kept on fighting, and so that a normal human can't do that. And so he must have superpowers. What's the explanation in the book for why he can do all these things? And I usually just have to reply that, if you think about any action hero franchise like John Wick or, the Schwarzenegger movies or whatever, it always seems like the good guy, the protagonist, if he's got a gun or whatever, he can just go around and pow, pow, and take people out with one shot. But he can get shot like 3 or 4 times and keep going. He gets a bandage and wraps it around it and, and he just keeps on going. And I think that is true for comics as well. You've got, somebody like Batman, some people call it plot armor and they say it like it's a bad thing, but I think it's a part of it's a narrative convention that the good guy is going to be able to take more damage than the bad guys can, and he's going to be able to, gird his loins and keep going. And so I don't think there's a need for something in the story to explain his, being more durable than a normal human or anything. It's just he's the good guy, right? So, so another question. A guy said that he had seen a post somewhere that said that during the Hulk's earliest career, he just wasn't very popular, and that they had a hard time getting him to be popular, and that they were just kind of carrying him because Stan Lee liked him or something like that. And I think that what somebody was getting mixed up on was, here's the history. So Stan Lee and I guess Jack Kirby create the Hulk, right? And he comes out in Hulk #1, and it goes for about 6 issues, and then sales are just not where they need to be. And they decide to cancel it. But they don't just flat out cancel it. They do what they were doing with a lot of characters, is they were taking existing books like Tales to Astonish, which that's what they use for the Hulk, and they started running a Hulk story and a Giant Man story in each issue of Tales to Astonish. And it's like they did that with Tales of Suspense, with, I think, Captain America and Iron Man, and things like that. So you would have 2 characters that would share a book, and they would each have a story that was half the normal length. And people were more happy to buy that because back then they were more into anthologies and things, and they're like, "Ooh, I get two different heroes for my money." And that ran for a long time, and that is when a lot of the Hulk's background really got fleshed out, and a lot of the things that we came to understand, and the normal Hulk stuff kind of happened. So then, after a while, there was also some business with the distributor, and they could only distribute so many books. So this was also a way to get more heroes out there with a limited distribution on the number of books they could put out. But eventually, they were able to take the Tales to Astonish series and just take the numbering from that and pick up from there and change it into Incredible Hulk and roll with it, until such time as they wound up, canceling it just to renumber it. So I think that it wasn't that, he spent a significant amount of time being a poor seller. I think it was just he couldn't quite handle his own book right there at the beginning. They needed to give it a little more time. So another question that came up, somebody was looking at a website that had like a timeline of all the MCU movies, and it didn't have Fantastic Four First Steps on it. And it was kind of an interesting question because here's the thing. The thing. Get it? Here's the thing. Anyway, the movie seems to be set in the 60s, right? But is it set, is the 60s in that universe, and I can't remember the numbers, but is the 60s that are in the setting of the Fantastic Four movie, that universe, at the same time as the 60s in the main Marvel universe, movie MCU, or is the main current day in the main Marvel movies, is that equal to the 60s in that universe? So when we see in the after credits scene, when we see the Fantastic Four, in the ship in the main universe, did they travel through time, or did they just travel interdimensionally? But I would imagine, not knowing how that works, it would be hard to place First Steps on a timeline, because does it go like, right after First Avenger, or does it go right after, New Event, Thunderbolts? So until we know that, you can't really place it on a timeline. So I thought that was an interesting quandary. So here was a question that was a little more in line with what we do here normally here on Glenn Simpson's Comics. So somebody said that if you have a lot of comics, like you've had a lot of comics, you can't keep them in alphabetical order, that it's not practical to do that, or it's not possible to do that. And I beg to differ. And the reason I do it, all right, that's just, what I do, is I really feel strongly that, someone should be able to find something without having to go look at some other chart to find out, which box it should be in. You can pretty much figure out where a book is based on the little labels, but everything is in alphabetical order, so you can narrow in on it quickly. And it's just a matter of leaving some space in each box, so that when the time comes and that box does maybe get full, you can just move some to the next box, but you're not having to move all the way down. You can just move a few to the next box, and then if that gets full, maybe you have to move some more to the next box. But eventually you'll catch a box that has some space, and you're good. Now I do periodically go through a process of saying, okay, this is everything I've got, and this is how many boxes I've got. and what do I need to do to adjust it all the way through to make room, because I did kind of get thrown off by the absolute titles, because that first box was never intended to have that many books, new books added to it before the absolute line came out. And then the box, in fact, you can see the boxes right there with there. I don't know if you can tell, but there's no writing on the label. That was just my reminder for myself that what it says on the label is way off, and that's because I did have to slide some stuff around, because the Ultimate stuff took me by surprise. Not both the new Ultimate, because I just I got all of that, and then that took up space, and then I wound up finding a lot of the old Ultimate stuff in dollar boxes and things over the last year or two. And I never collected that to start with. I only just have been buying it in retrospect out of dollar boxes. But so I do think it is a certain amount of work to maintain alphabetical order. I don't think it's the end of the world. It's kind of fun. I go from A to Z all the time. And, of course, now I'm doing it and shooting a video after I go through each box and get it ready and kind of look at what needs to be rebagged or upgraded from a normal bag to a Mylar, things like that. But it's doable. It is certainly doable. And I think it's preferable. I mean, I don't want to tell anybody how to do their thing, but the thing that you gain from it is you can find stuff without having to have, like I say, a third chart or an app or anything. And if I were to keel over tomorrow and somebody was coming in to look at my stuff to buy it, they would be able to see what I've got and find things and whatever without having to. Somebody have to come up with, finding an app or something that has what box is which book in. So, big proponent of keeping it simple. It's a little more work, but keeping it simple with alphabetical. So, finally, the last thing. This is one that comes up a lot in the Reddit stuff. Is Batman's no-kill rule. And people debating, should Batman kill the Joker? And I don't think anybody thinks he's not going to. We know that because, they would lose. Well, I mean, he could, but then the Joker would come back anyway. But I think everybody keeps trying to come up with explanations for why he doesn't that are in-universe explanations, and I've given it a lot of thought, and I don't think there is one, but let me tell you what I mean. So the Clark Kent thing with the glasses, right? Now, again, there's the hypno glasses explanation, but setting that aside, for the most part, it really kind of shouldn't work. Or there's a lot of people who agree that it's just you buy into it. You buy into it because it's fun to do that. To enjoy the story, you kind of set your belief aside, and you just accept the fact that the glasses and the slouching and the higher pitched voice are enough to fool people who, he was talking to 5 minutes ago as Superman, and now he's talking to them as Clark Kent. But, so that's just something you buy into. So, and then think for a minute about the earliest superhero stories. They were the hero would go out, would hear about some crime, some murders, whatever, would go out, would catch the villain and turn him over to the police, and then you never heard about that one again, right? And then eventually they started bringing villains back, but about the same time that they were starting to do that, the villains weren't really, There were some of them that did, do some killing, but they didn't kill a lot of people. They kill, the Joker, like the Joker fish story. He killed 3 or 4 people before Batman stopped him. So here is my proposal, and you can argue with me in the comments if you want, is in the same way that people are not able to recognize Clark Kent as Superman or vice versa, Batman is not able to pick up on the fact that the police or the law cannot hold villains like the Joker, that he just does not realize. Every time he catches the Joker and turns him over to Gordon or whatever, he thinks that's going to be the last time, right? He doesn't. He's not picking up on the pattern that, he's probably going to break out again. He's probably going to kill again. He thinks it's over this time, and that's just, again, a narrative device. So I don't think you can explain it internally, because if you really look too closely at it, then he's doing a terrible job at his mission, because he keeps giving, sure, he catches these killers, but then he gives them over to people who can't keep hold on to them. Now, he might not necessarily need to kill them, but, does he need to build his own prison, or something like that, so that his mission, that he can achieve his mission, because he's not, they just keep breaking out and just killing more people. So that's where I'm at on that. Let me know your thoughts. There's a lot of debate on it. Again, I think the reason that we now are starting to debate it is because the stories have involved more killing. The average Joker story used to be he just, he'd kill like 2 or 3 people and then he'd get caught. Now he's actually succeeding in, poisoning the reservoir or whatever it was he used to just try to do. And then he gets caught before he can, expand out even further. And so, I mean, he killed a bunch of babies, or he was going to kill a bunch of babies. So I think that's why it's suddenly, becoming a subject, because it's starting to be obvious that Batman's not accomplishing anything by not necessarily killing him. And I think the only way it kind of makes sense is just to realize that it's just a convention of the genre, and he just can't pick up. He's never going to realize that, oh, wait, I need to do something more than what I'm already doing. So, just thought I would throw out some ideas and things that have been blowing past me on Reddit lately, comic book Reddit. So let me know your thoughts. You can find me on comic book Reddit, various forums, as Bobby Saccaro, Saccaro. It was a, don't ask me why my name's that. Please be sure to check out some of my other videos, my normal one box at a time videos, and otherwise, have a great day.